Yo, what's going on guys, it's Kryptic TNG and I'm back with a brand new video. This time I'm going to be talking about the things that I want to see improved for Project Cars 3. Now obviously I'm not too sure when P-Cars 3 is supposed to be coming, but there is a lot of things on P-Cars 2 that I probably would say I'm not too happy with, and I'd like to see big improvements. Yeah, so let's get started. And I think number one for me, it's got to be the balance of the cars. Now mainly for me, obviously being mainly driving the GT3s, I want to see a better balance between the cars. I think at the moment you sort of have two, maybe three cars at a time that can really compete at the front, and the other cars just seem to be there for show. I think there's around, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's 16 different GT3 cars, and from 16 GT3 cars, more often than not, you're only going to get two or three that are going to be able to compete right at the front. You do have some occasions where other cars can sort of get in there and fight for wins, but unless you are insane with setups, or you are just a ridiculously fast driver, more often than not you're not going to be able to compete against guys who have a similar standard in faster cars. So I'd like to see a lot more cars being able to compete at the front. And what I mean is, like, at the moment you've got the Lamborghini, the AMG, and to be honest I don't really think the Audi can even compete unless the track is sort of really tight and twisty and stuff like that. For me, the AMG and the Lamborghini are the two cars to be. Now some guys, for instance like a Dahidi, someone who's extremely fast, extremely good at setups, they can sort of bring other cars into it. You've seen with the Z4 and the Porsche, he's able to sort of battle at the front. But I still feel that for the general player, you're not going to be able to compete in those cars. If you're just picking up the game, you really do have to go into a lot of detail with the setup, and it can be quite frustrating. But in general, out of the 15 or 16 GT3s I believe there are in the game, I think a lot of them are just taking up space for no reason. I mean, I'm not quite sure why there is a 2015 and a 2016 version of the Bentley and the cars are identical. None of them are any better than the other one, and they're just both slow. It's sort of just wasting resources on making cars that you just don't need. Again, with the Aston Martin, I mean, you can compete probably around Daytona or something like that, but in general the car's just, it's not great to drive, it's not quick, and I just feel like the balance needs to be there more. I'm pretty sure in the GT4 class it's pretty similar as well. I'm pretty sure in the GT4 class the GT4s are not that well balanced. I think the Ginetta is like way quicker than anything else. So again, we just need to sort of figure that out and just have a better balance. Because when the game first came out, the Ferrari was super quick, the McLaren was super quick, and nothing else seemed to be able to compete with them. And then we've had patch after patch, and sort of it just hasn't. For me, if you're gonna have 16 cars, at least 6 or 7 of them, half, should be able to continuously compete on the majority of circuits on this game, and it just hasn't happened. And yeah, it's kind of disappointing. Another thing I'd like to see is actually more DLC, because I feel like the DLC that's been provided is not really DLC that many people care about. The tracks, to be honest, I think Mugello was a good track. The Ferrari test track was okay, but I mean, you can only use a Ferrari around it. And you know, you have like the Porsche test track and stuff like that, but these tracks, they're not, apart from Mugello, they're not really gonna get used. I'd like to see more well-known racetracks. I'm not sure how easy it is to get a licensing for these tracks, but you know, I'd love to see Brazil and tracks like that. And I thought we would get Brazil in this game, but it just seems as if the DLC is just faded. And yeah, with that, it kind of gets quite repetitive when you're not getting these top tracks, you know, around the world that you could still be driving. Malaysia, you know, China, different just tracks they haven't already had on the game before. And yeah, I just feel like the DLC sort of was a little bit underwhelming. I mean, before we got on P-Cars 1, at least we got, you know, some new GT3 cars when we got the AMG, and yeah, it was pretty decent. We got the Bentley, and it was like, yeah, they're sort of catering for what we all actually want. But on P-Cars 2, it's just been a bit schneid, to be honest. But yeah, and probably one of the biggest things I'd say I'd like to see for P-Cars 3 is, I know a lot of people have had their say on the physics, but for me personally, the physics are not there on this game. They're just not there, and it's annoying because I know how can I say this, I know that they've gone into a lot of detail and with all the stuff that they've done with this game, but it doesn't, to me, it hasn't translated properly into how the game should feel. And the biggest example for this is if you jump on Project Cars and you drive a certain way, you have a certain driver style P-Cars, and let's say you're fast, 9 times out of 10 that driving style, if you take it to another sim, doesn't work. You know, they sort of seriously late braking, and you can kind of slam shift down the gears pretty fast, stamp on the brakes and whatever to get the car slowed down just to be fast on P-Cars, and it generally on P-Cars 2 that works. But you take it to iRacing, you take it to a Assetto Corsa, it just doesn't, that style of driving doesn't work. Even the sort of the racing lines you can even use on this game are totally unorthodox, whereas you sort of, it's always best to take the tightest line you can on P-Cars because it's always quicker, whereas in other games you sort of make sure you straighten up the car for the exit and you take the wide line in to get a better exit. But on this game it doesn't really, you don't really have to do that if you want to go quick. And even just the way how you can drive the car sort of sideways and it be actually faster than, you know, going around the track having your car as smooth as possible, which is actually the way you should be going around the track. Just little things like that. I just think the way they've done the handling model, I'm not too sure. I still personally think it needs a little bit of tweaking. It does feel a little bit unrealistic at times, and for me personally, as someone who spent so much time on this game, the enjoyment of just driving around the track by myself, I wouldn't say is, you know, I wouldn't say I massively enjoy the driving when I jump on this game. I can sort of go on a Assetto Corsa race room and I can drive around for a good couple of hours by myself and be fine, whereas on P-Cars it quickly gets boring. The good thing about P-Cars is that the community is great. There's a lot of people still in the game, and obviously being in AOR, I'm always online with somebody, I'm always got people to play with, which is kind of what keeps me on the game, to be honest. But other than that, they definitely need to sort of, I don't know, refine the handling, just get it feeling a little bit more realistic. And I think tied into the handling, something I'd like to see improve for P-Cars 3 is the tyres, the way how the tyres work. Now I know, you know, different people have different opinions about the soft tyres, hard tyres, whatever, but for me personally, the soft tyres on this game are terrible. They're terrible. They give you more mechanical grip, but actual grip, like going around corners, it actually just gives you way more understeer. It gives you way more understeer, and that's not actually how soft tyres work. Soft tyres will give you more grip, but they don't last as long, they overheat, and when soft tyres start going off, you actually slide. You don't actually understeer, you slide coming out of corners, you slide going into corners. It should be harder to control as the race goes on, as opposed to not being able to even be able to turn your car. The moment, if you go into a race and you use soft tyres, it shouldn't be like I can't turn into any corners. It should be like you've got a load of grip, but it just doesn't last long. And I think they've just got it totally backwards in the way they've done the tyres. I know they've put together all the numbers and made all these calculations or whatever, but there's no other game that has their tyres working like this. There's no other sport you watch, motorsport you watch in real life, where soft tyres give you more understeer than the hard tyres. So whatever calculation they've made, I just don't think they've done a great job of it. For me, I've always been a little bit, you know, I'm not that fond of the hard tires on this game, especially because depending on what car you use, it's pretty hard to get them warmed up. It's very dependent on track temperature, but for me, like I just feel like they need to have a sort of a better range for the tires to work. I feel like soft tires, they should have probably a bigger window, but they need to have that drop off where if you use soft tires, you're definitely going to have to change your tires during the race, but you should be quicker. But what tends to happen with the soft tires is, even when it's cold, if you can heat the hards up, the hards will be faster, and that's not exactly how it works in real life. So I'd like to see them do work on that and just sort of sort the tires out, man. Let people have a little bit of a strategy, because honestly, if you go into a race and you want to use soft tires, by the time you get to lap 2 or 3, you'll barely be able to turn into a corner. You'll be understeering everywhere, and everyone on the hards will just be flying past you, and your tires won't, it's not as if your tires will be wearing or your tires will be exceedingly hot. It's just that they just don't work properly. And yeah, I just feel like they need to sort of start working a little bit harder on that. But yeah, there's many things I think for P-Cars 3 that they can improve. There are some things that I do like. I do like the wet weather. I like the puddles and stuff like that. That's one thing I hope they keep. But one of the main things is just the live track. I feel like the live track can be sometimes quite questionable. We've always had complaints of people feeling like they've got 2 different conditions, and that's something I think, like, if they can't implement the live track perfectly, I think they should just forget about it, because you'll practice, you'll do a race, and then you'll do another race with the exact same conditions, and it just feels totally different. Your lap times are different, the car does not reacting the same, and it can be quite annoying. Now, I know obviously you want it as realistic as possible, but I think in racing, you would, if you had the choice, you would love to iron out all the things that would annoy you in real life racing. So I'm not sure you actually want these things in the game, especially when you're having competitions and stuff like that. You kind of want everything to be settled so people are getting a level playing field. It's not fair if one guy has got a set of conditions that should be the same as yours, but in fact his track is a lot drier than yours. And there's been reports of that. I remember playing P-Cars 2 on a PS4 in a wet race at Silverstone, and this guy is driving around 4 seconds lap quicker than anybody else. And then when we asked him like what setup was you running, he said my track wasn't even wet. I was driving on a dry track. And from then I just thought, wow, that's just crazy. So yeah, hopefully things like that can just get ironed out. Again, something that some people might not agree with, I think the time trials, something I'd like to see change is the fact that you can just load up another man's setup. For me, especially if you're doing sort of competitions and esports and stuff like that, I don't think it's fair that someone gets on, grinds for a setup, you know, they try and produce the best setup they can to go as fast as they can, and then someone can just come on, take the setup and match their time, sort of profiting off of somebody else's hard work. And if something is a competition, then I feel like, you know, you shouldn't really have to help out the people you're battling against, because it's just like being in F1 and then Ferrari giving the blueprint to everything they've done to their car to help Mercedes go quicker. It doesn't really make sense. I feel like, you know, if you put the hard work in, then that should be your secret to hold, and they should have a choice whether you want to share your ghost or whatever. And I think you know, I'm not too bothered about being able to see someone else's ghost, but I think being able to load their setup up is a little bit cheap. And I know there is ways around it, but still, I don't think you should have to. So yeah, it's one of them. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I just want to see P-Cars with sort of greater attention and greater support, because I feel like SMS are it almost feels like they've kind of given up on the game, to be honest. And yeah, I would have liked to have seen them, you know, give the game a lot more support, because it's kind of just tailed off. And to be honest, I feel like if it wasn't for mainly the AOR community, I'm not sure where this game would be. I'm not sure how many people would be on it, but AOR definitely is helping the game keep going on strong. But yeah, I just feel like there's just a lot of things that could be improved on. P-Cars, I don't know, it's kind of I don't know, has it lived up to what it was supposed to? Has it been as good as I thought it would be? Probably not. I think if the GT3 balance was better, then I would say that's part of it. But still, there is other issues, and quite recently the issue we've been having AOR, the connection's been absolutely horrendous. We can't even do a race at the moment. Every race you try and do is just getting cancelled because we're getting so many disconnects and just all sorts of things about this. It's crazy. But yeah, hopefully these are things that people figure out. And I would like to know what you guys' top requests are for the next game. Me personally is the same things, man. Just a game where the cars are just a lot more balanced, and it doesn't result in everyone always wanting to be in the same car, because I mean, we've had championships where everyone's in a Ferrari, then after that, once the Ferrari got banned, and everyone's in the Audi, then everyone's in the Lamborghini. Do you know what I mean? Now, you know, a lot of people in the AMG, and you don't really get people using too many other cars, because it's just people want to go into the cars that give them a chance of a good result, and that's where we find ourselves. But I'd love to see P-Cars where you're able to pick the Bentley, the NSX, the BMW, the Ferrari, Audi, Lambo, AMG, and at least if you have that, then you know you have a grid that there's a lot of people that don't even like the cars they're driving, but they have to drive them because they want to be able to compete. Do you know what I mean? So you know, I'd just like to see more of a variation, and definitely, and for me, get these tires sorted out, man. I'm not feeling these tires at all on P-Cars, not at all. Yeah, as I said before, soft tires, they work very weird, and if you know how to manipulate the setup to get the best out of the softs, then you can make a car like a lot more oversteery, but still you get so much understeer in the slow corners, and that is the slow corners and accelerating out the slow corners. That is where a lot of your grip should be coming from for the softs, but it's like it almost works in reverse. Yeah, another quick mention, something I forgot about is the track conditions. When you're driving around the track by yourself, you should actually be a little bit slower than when the track's actually rubbered in. Now I get people saying, you know, marbles, when there's a lot of cars on track, you're gonna have marbles and the track should be slower and more slippery, but actually on the racing line the track should be more grippy. You don't ever see in F1 them going out when the track's green and setting their fastest tyres, because there's not as much grip and they're the only car driving around the circuit. They always wait for sort of 10-15 cars to get out on track, get the track gripped up, get the rubber down, and then you start seeing the better times. And on P-Cars, it's like the more cars you have on track, the slower you go, so it's a little bit of a weird one. I just think that some of the things they've tried to do is like they've tried to overcomplicate some things that are just not that complicated. Just keep it simple. You know what I mean? I think if you're trying to do all these groundbreaking things and the basis of your game's not right, then it's kind of pointless. So yeah, I'd like to see a lot of changes, man. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully the next game does us justice. I'm not too sure when that's supposed to be coming out. They're supposed to be working on it. I don't know if that's even happening, and to be honest, I don't know if I'll even really be about for P-Cars 3, man, because I'm enjoying the Set Corsa Competizione. I love the sounds, I love the looks of the cars, the balance. So far from the cars I've driven, the balance is a lot closer. Even if some cars are quicker than others, it's not, the gap is not as big as what some of the cars are on P-Cars. I mean, for Liasting around some tracks is a good 2 seconds and 2 and a bit seconds off Same with the Bentley. So yeah, I'm not too sure. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, leave your comments below. Tell me what you want to see for PCAST 3. And yeah, it's Kryptic TNG. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. Peace.